exclusive content, audio blog, The Spark, episode number 4.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the luminous mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Hello, fire starters. Today we're going to discuss episodes that ran from, I don't even have the dates. April 13th through the 17th. We had Susie McGuire on Monday. She was episode number 33. Emily Dyke on Wednesday, episode 34. And then we had Celestia Shumway in episode 35. Susie McGuire, episode number 33, I think I titled hers Love-Based Learning because it was so much on letting your child learn the things that they really love. One of the things that I really enjoyed about her episode was that she talked about, it was one of my highlighting clips coming in, but that, what if wonderful? Everybody always does the what if this happens, or they don't do this, or they don't do this, what if, and what if it ends up being wonderful? And that's kind of been my experience. My mantra at the beginning, wasn't mine, it was my husband's, was basically, you can't be doing any worse than what he would be getting at a traditional public school. And I remember being fearful, especially at the beginning, as soon as we kind of pulled out of our charter school and we decided to do this homeschooling full time. I don't know, I had a kind of a breakdown one morning when I was looking at the what ifs and looking around the room and seeing all the little faces and realizing this was completely and totally up to me. But it really has been much more than I expected, and what if wonderful happened, and I really enjoyed her words. I really hope Susie plans on coming back on. We've kind of talked about I would like to see episodes on how to travel, and I love our world schoolers. They bring such an exciting part to our podcast, and I love listening to them. I have one more scheduled sometime the end of... the very end of the month is another world schooler that we're going to have, and what another wonderful podcast. So definitely tune into that. Wednesday, we had Emily Dyke, and she was episode number 34, and she was basically representing her business, Math Inspirations. She talked about how creative thinking is developed by letting them figure out how to solve problems on their own, and how when we industrialize the learning, we made teaching math even more difficult, that we didn't allow them to do task-based type learning for math and use that scientific method of trying to figure something out. We just kind of told them how to do it, and how that has made learning math more difficult. She talked about ownership to problem solving, and how when they have that ownership, they retain the information, they end up enjoying the learning. It's something kind of that they've created of their own that they feel proud of. It really leads to a very self-driven attitude in doing math. She talked about how important trial and error is, and letting them fail, testing your own hypothesis, and how powerful that failure can be in understanding for student discovery. Mentors are supposed to help guide the student to discover the answers, but the student themselves is supposed to do the problems on their own versus telling them how to do it. And that's really the opposite of what we have learned. That is definitely changing the paradigm of how we teach math, and how important that is to kind of change that paradigm so that the student ends up enjoying it and doing more of it on their own. she talked about the spiral method, and I think the spiral method really applies to all learning. We definitely do exposures to things when they're little through reading, and then as they get bigger, we move into, complicating subjects and talking more in depth and getting into deeper information, and hopefully to the point that the student really enjoys learning about stuff, because I don't know if you've ever had that light bulb, that spark that happens, and it just makes you crave more learning. I really loved her philosophy of education, the principles, how it's different than compulsory versus individual self-driven learning. And that's just something I think inside of me that definitely I have learned as a principle to life, how important that individual freedom and that agency is to learn something, and how that can really push us or propel us or lead us away, I guess, if it's compulsory. Sometimes that steers us away from something. It's left to your own self-interests. It definitely allows you to love it and enjoy it and want to do something. And just being able to enjoy something just for the sheer joy of discovering the concepts themselves. I think it's interesting. I have studied a lot about Common Core math, and my kids are actually using a curriculum that's supposed to be Common Core aligned, which is definitely not by design. It's just how it is. I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to give them a lot of different ideas of how to solve things, but the way they phrase the questions, the way they approach it, it does make it a lot more confusing. And the whole point behind it is they're trying to teach critical thinking, and how when they take that element of letting the child do some self-discovery out of the equation, and we still try to teach math in the old same method, we end up with the same problems and even more confusing than we had before. And so I think it's interesting they're trying to do one thing, but just by the method of how they're doing the instruction, they end up creating the opposite. On Friday, we had Celestia Shumway, and she was episode number 35. I really loved her seasons of learning. It was evident that she's really studied kind of child development and how, we go through those seasons. I think what I loved about her seasons, different than what I've heard before, is that it included an element of a lifelong pursuit, that many times those other phases, they end at, scholar phase or whatever. They end at kind of a graduate work, but they don't really push the idea that it's a lifelong pursuit. And that's what I really loved about her seasons of learning, and what our mission in life is. And I think that's kind of what I pulled from it. Sometimes I make notes and it's not making any sense, but is that we are expected to try to help them figure out their mission in life. And I think sometimes it's really sad. I remember coming out of school and not really feeling like I had a mission or a place, or, it took me decades to kind of figure out what my mission in life was. And I think that's kind of what I love about some of these other methods of learning, is that it really helps to identify the mission for a child's life and coming out with a clear direction of what they should do. And of course, that may change definitely with technology and with advances in society, but they seem to still keep that same mission. There's still that driving force of what somebody has behind them. And obviously, there's an ebb and flow for, like I said, the advances but trying to help your child oversee their long-term purpose gives them a lot more clarity to their life and helps them move in a direction that would better suit them. I loved Celestia's definition of organic learning and those phases. I think I'm just repeating what I was going to say. They do, when children are shoved and pushed and they're not individually ready, a lot of times that creates in their mind for the rest of their life, they just feel really stupid. I remember I was a first grader, and we were learning how to read. That's interesting that, we waited till 7 when I was learning how to read, but I was really sick that year when they were teaching children how to read. And maybe I wasn't ready, maybe I really wasn't ready to learn how to read. But I remember from that time and not grasping, luckily my parents got me an excellent tutor during that summer, and she really helped. And, of course, I gradually became a good reader and loved to read. And I really think I enjoyed reading after my formal schooling was done, more so when it was on my own, and once again, when it wasn't forced. But I spent most of my most of my school years feeling really stupid, and I think that came from, those first little times when I was young, and just that force and not being ready and not understanding and feeling like I was the only one who didn't get it, and just feeling really dumb. And so really want to emphasize how important it is to not force and to just let children learn on their own. I kind of had an experience this last week. I was sitting in church, and my little 7-year-old son, he is learning how to read. He's probably more, we're still moving through phonics, and, he's doing readers, and he's loving it, and he's doing really well, and I've been extremely proud of him. He's always telling me what a wonderful reader he is. And he's got that confidence that I want to see as they learn and they grow. But we're sitting in church next to a little boy that's in his same little class, in his Sunday school class. And I'm watching what this child's reading, and he's reading like chapter books. And I'm like, oh, wow. He's really, really doing well. And he was totally enthralled in whatever book he was reading right there in the middle of church. And and I was really starting to feel that competition, like going, oh my goodness, maybe he's not, he should be doing more. He should be, and starting to feel this little bit of stress building in myself. And here I am. I listen to these people all the time, every day, mostly every day. I listen to somebody talking about how, we need to slow it down and just enjoy it and let the child learn, and definitely not compare what we're doing with what other people are doing, and feeling that stress. And then here I am all of a sudden in the middle of church feeling that stress of what my son, where he was at, and all of that stuff. And so everybody fights that. I fight it, and I listen to people do it every day. I've had 10, 12, whatever years of being immersed in this type of lifestyle. And so really not to compare and just to enjoy the moment. I really loved that quote from Yvonne Swinson last week that talked about, comparison is the thief of joy. I mean, what a great quote. I mean, that's completely true. And that's what I was feeling at that moment. Instead of feeling really proud of where he is and how he's coming along, I was feeling that competition and feeling that comparison, and that's really not where we need to go. I do want to make an apology. I really hope that my whole idea behind creating this podcast was to create a feeling of empowerment and encouragement, and to feel uplifted, hopefully. And sometimes I feel like some of our podcasts, and definitely I do a lot of comparisons and like that, of like, this model versus that model, and how this might be so much better. And, and I'm not somebody that's going to push people to homeschool. I don't necessarily feel like it's right for that person or that family. I support all kinds of school choices. I try to highlight just different ideas, because one of my other things that I'm trying to do is change the idea and of what education looks like. I mean, we have bureaucrats telling us, what an intellectual person or an educated person looks like, and it can look a lot of different ways. It can be done in different styles, and hopefully we are fitting that to what's best for the child, not what's best for adults or teachers or people like that. We were trying to focus on the education for the child. But I do want to apologize. It came became clear to me, and I've heard this throughout the years, that sometimes we come off as snobbish, like homeschoolers do, that somehow we think that we're better than other people. And what my whole idea is to make you leaders. I think anytime you do something different, you automatically become a leader. I remember thinking that way back in public policy when we started talking about virtual schooling. We started it, we had been doing that for 7 years by the time they were really starting to be interested in the state level. And I wasn't even an early pioneer at that point. I definitely was not seasoned in virtual education as some people. I remember thinking that how all of a sudden, this daily thing that we were just gently doing was all of a sudden we were leaders and people were asking us questions and wanting to know. And so anytime you do something different, you're a leader. And that's what I'm trying to inspire is leadership, not like the snobbish attitude. So I'm really sorry if I've ever said anything that's came across as kind of that snobbish attitude. And I want to be really clear of where my ideas are, what direction I'd love to see this podcast go, what I'm trying to create for you, and then hopefully you will give me some feedback and tell me, if this is what you want to hear or how I can help you. I'm really interested in that. I want to see how we can help families and so that they're more successful in what they're trying to do. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of tenacity to really try something different, and that's what I love to see is people who want to think outside the box, who want to ask questions, who want to change their paradigm and look at something differently. I love debate. I don't like being mean. Sometimes I come across mean because I'm just very pointed of how I say things, but I do love debate. I love looking at ideas and listening to other people's ideas and thinking and pondering and questioning those ideas with my own beliefs. And then eventually I come to kind of what my guiding principles are. So anyway, like I said, this is the first spark that will be, it is just part of our free sign up to be part of our group. I'm hoping that coming up, we will have some more. When I say group, I mean part of our kind of club or wanting to learn more about the Luminous Mind. So definitely tell your friends about us, share and spread our message so we can grow this community so we can get more ideas of ways that we can do something. I mean, you may have a child that comes along and every other method that you've tried isn't working, but hopefully there's something here that sparks that idea and changes that paradigm. Let's see, continue to support us through Amazon. It'd be great if I could actually make this sustain itself instead of sucking from my family budget. Like I said before, my husband's extremely supportive, and I appreciate that and love the fact that he's so willing to help me and to do those things. But if you could go through to our website and through that Amazon widget and make your Amazon purchases there, you can make all purchases there. It'll go a long ways to helping us. Next week, we have some exciting things that we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about a study abroad program with Toby Spears. We're going to be talking about Bree Binder. She's got kind of a political activist group of trying to spread like free market, civil liberties type of ideas across colleges and high schools. And then I have another homeschooling mom, Natalie Goddard, which will be on Friday, and she's going to be wonderful. So definitely tune in to the Luminous Mind. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or all of our audio content with YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. Tell us what you want to hear and how we can help you so we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education. We need more fire starters. To join us, go to our website, theluminousmind.net, and click on the Fire tab. You'll be able to schedule an appointment today. Also, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.